I did think China was a star. I mean, she's definitely felt different than, and if we've learned anything on 83 weeks, we know that sometimes that's all you need. Um, by the way, the Kurt Kane match was a DQ. Steve Blackman came down and got involved, and there you go. But now we've got Stephanie McMahon out here to try to solve this whole intercontinental title controversy. You may recall China had just beaten Jeff Jarrett back in October to become the Intercontinental Champion. But then she found herself working with Chris Jericho. And I guess on SmackDown, Jericho forgot to lift his shoulder on the suplex spot. So now we've got co champions. So we have co Intercontinental champions, China and Chris Jericho together. They're the Intercontinental champion. And I know that sometimes you take some razzing about some of your title decisions.
I was just going to say, this is kind of weird, right?
Co-champions, come on now. That's a little silly, isn't it?
That's a stretch.
Yeah, I think so too. I wanted to ask you about some more recent stuff. You know, we don't usually talk about modern stuff in the middle of an old show, but we're going to do it now because we're watching stuff from 2000, but we're going to talk about something that's happening in 2025. There's reports in the Observer that it looks like Malakai Black may in fact be done with AEW. There's been lots of speculation that maybe he wanted to go back to WWE, and we certainly heard that about other talent. But not that long ago when he wrestled Adam Cole, I felt like the big bow afterwards and the big thank you and all that, that felt like a farewell. When I said that on the shows, people jumped all over me and said, no, it's not. He's still got plenty of time left on his contract. Why would you say that? Even Malakai Black, I think himself, posted a video denying it, saying, I don't know where this is coming from. It was just a match.
I remember that, actually.
Turns out he might actually be done after all, which is exactly what it looked like. What do you make of this? Because this whole we want to go back to WWE or we want to leave and go to WWE narrative seemingly out there for a handful of guys. Allegedly, that's what Ricky Starks wants to do. Allegedly, Malakai Black wants to do that. There's speculation that I don't know the last time we saw Miro. I mean, there's a whole list of these folks. But I do want to ask you what you think about Malakai Black, and is there going to be an opportunity for that perhaps? And because when I take a look at the Raw and SmackDown roster and what they're doing right now, like they've got so many established stars. If they're not careful, they're going to recreate the AEW circumstance where you've got a lot of talented folks in catering. There's just only so much time here to fit all of this talent in. I'm a Malakai fan. I like his work, but man, it's a crowded space in WWE right now, is it not?
Yeah, sort of, but look at the content that they have to produce. You've got, and I'm confused. Is Raw going to be 3 hours now?
Raw has no time. There's no set time. It's around 3 hours, but it could be 40 minutes. It could be 4 hours.
I'm guessing you're going to probably be looking at an average of around 2 hours, but have the ability to go 2.5, 3 hours or whatever, depending on the scenario. It's a lot of content to fill. You've got SmackDown. Now you've got CW. A lot of it depends on what they want to do with the NXT brand. I have no idea. And this is with no respect to what I would do or wouldn't do. But you've got CW. Yes, it's a small network that few people watch, but that's an opportunity. They have an opportunity to not necessarily own, from a technical perspective, the CW network, but if you can become the most powerful franchise on that network, it's in a way better than owning it because you don't have any of the liabilities. And if their goal is to grow NXT and build it bigger, then you'll probably see a lot more stars that might have otherwise been exclusive to Raw or SmackDown showing up on NXT. And I think Malakai Black would be a great character for that, a great athlete, person for that. But, you know, I met Malakai in 2019 when I believe he had just recently arrived in WWE when I did. And Paul Heyman was very, very high on Malakai, almost like overly aggressive about trying to push him. and not to me necessarily, because he was a SmackDown guy and I was Raw, but to Vince. I mean, Paul spent hours and hours and hours in catering, talking with Malakai, helping Malakai, understand his character, understand what he was doing on the show. I mean, Paul took a very active hand in trying to position and groom and get Malakai ready for the opportunity in WWE. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Now, that reason could have been Vince. It could have just been a taste thing. Vince, despite Paul's, and I know that Vince respected Paul because he spent a lot of time talking to him, but for whatever reason, Vince didn't see it. Maybe Triple H does. Or maybe he's just a very talented guy that would fit on NXT or CW if there's a growth strategy involved there. It's interesting. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know Malakai personally. We don't chat. But I'm guessing he could have probably stayed in AEW and made a lot of money, probably more money than he could make in WWE if indeed he goes there. But guys like Malakai want to perform. I talked about this years ago, 2 years ago at least, when referencing AEW and all the talent they were stacking up. And, you mentioned Miro and a lot of other people who would love to get out of AEW right now, despite the money, because they're not able to perform. When was the last time we saw Miro on TV? Year and a half?
I couldn't tell you.
I mean, talk about killing a guy's career. There's two ways to kill a guy's career: overexpose him and put him on a shelf indefinitely, out of sight, out of mind.
Hey,
that's
I found it.
That's how you kill a brand. And young talent is smart enough to know that. And once the money wears off, because the money's always a thing, right? Oh man, I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life. And your wife or your girlfriend or your parents or whatever, everybody's happy. You get to buy a new car. And then about 6 months later, you're starting to get used to all that shit. It's not a big deal anymore because it's not new anymore. And you're sitting on your ass doing nothing. And you may not think about it consciously, but subconsciously, every day that goes by is a day off of your career. And at some point, you got to get out there and perform and grow. But I think WWE's got enough content, certainly, and I'm guessing it's going to have even more with the international footprint in terms of live events. That there's plenty of room for good talent in WWE, and there will be for years to come.
I think Miro had like 30 matches in 2021 in AEW, but he had 4 in 2022, and he had 7.
This is 2025.
and he had 7 in 2023 and 0.0 in 2024. His last appearance, his last wrestling match was World's End. So New Year's Eve, December 30th, 2023 in Uniondale, New York, Miro and Andrade. Miro picked up a win. I mean, his most recent matches, here's his most recent string. He beat Andrade, Daniel Garcia, Action Andretti, Powerhouse Hobbs, Nick Camarado, Anthony Henry, and Tony Nese. So he's got a winning streak from 2 years ago. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
You brought this up before weeks ago. It was like, is Tony wrong for tacking on injury time to the back end of contracts? And I stood up for Tony on that one.
Yeah.
And you invest in someone and you expect a return on that investment. And then because of an injury or any other thing that would take that talent out, you lose your opportunity to get that return on that event. You still have to pay them because that's what the contract says. But now you've got a shortened window of opportunity to get a return on your investment. That's not fair. That's not fair. It would not be fair to Tony. So in that situation, absolutely, tack that 3 months, tack that 6 months, do whatever, assuming you're going to use that talent to try to get a return on the investment. That's good faith. That I understand. That's just basic fairness. But to have someone under contract and have no plan for them and not use them, that's when I think you cross the line with whoever it is. We're talking about Miro in this case, but whoever. Because there's a lot of talent that Might as well be in the witness protection program. And if there's no plan to use them, for God's sake, I know money doesn't matter because Tony's not held accountable financially for anything, but damn, do the right thing. It's not like it's going to hurt your business, Tony. Just cut them loose, save the money, donate it, whatever.
My favorite version of Miro's WWE career is when he was in WWE as Rusev, and he had Lana, the ravishing Russian, with him. And I thought, man, that whole presentation. I mean, he rode to the ring at WrestleMania on a freaking tank to wrestle John Cena. That's about as big time as it gets. But so much has changed. I don't know that we can even recapture that now. I mean, I'm a fan of Miro. I'm just saying, from what I understand, his real life circumstances changed. So I don't know what that would even look like if they put the band back together and recreate that act or whatever. But man, it was great stuff. And I hope we get to see Malakai Black and Miro doing their thing again sometime soon. And allegedly, people are going to see Pentagon on the second episode of Raw on Netflix. How do you think Pentagon will do as a singles performer in WWE in 2025, Eric?
I'd be lying to even take a guess. I'd be just filling air. I don't know. Don't know enough about him. Don't know enough about his history. Again, if I had to place a bet, I would bet the odds of him being successful in WWE are pretty good because obviously there's a commitment to him. And WWE has demonstrated when they make a commitment to you, it's not a guarantee you're going to become a superstar, but the likelihood of success is fairly high. It's a good bet. So I would make a good bet that he's going to be very successful without even knowing him or his history.
I can't wait to see what Pentagon looks like in the WWE.